Thanks for joining me for a Kick Up the Arts. I am Nicola Meehan, and in this episode we are celebrating the wonder of writer, artist, Glasgow icon and cultural polymath Alasdair Gray. Not for the first time, I grant you. The annual Gray Day takes place at Glasgow's Oran on February the 25th and, among other things, it'll be revelling in Alasdair's masterpiece Lanark on the 45th anniversary of its publication. Alan Bissett will perform another extract from his outstanding theatre work inspired by a photograph of Alasdair with Billy Connolly, which was taken at the launch of Lanark back in the 1980s. There will also be video contributions from Alan Cumming, who is narrating the first full version of the Lanark audiobook. It's been a long time coming. It's curated as ever by the Alasdair Gray Archive's incredible custodian, Sorcha Dallas. Honestly, she is a legend. And this year's Gray Day is hosted by comedian, writer and broadcaster Josie Long, who is always worth seeing live and whose recent short story collection, Because I Don't Know What You Mean and What You Don't, is wonderful. I sat down with Sorcha and Josie at the archive this morning, along with the brilliant writer Rachelle Atalla, whose unforgettable novels include The Pharmacist and The Salt Flats. Rachelle's the recipient of this year's Creative Commission, so she's going to read from a brand new story inspired by the work of Alasdair Gray, following on from the likes of Chitra Ramaswamy, Ali Smith, Denise Mina, Sarah Sheridan and Michael Peterson. So pour a coffee, pull up a chair, have a listen, and we'll hopefully see you at Oran on February the 25th. When I was coming through on the train, Sorcha, it blew my mind that it must have been a year ago, right?
No, look at those photos, I know.
Yeah, so we sat certainly here in the glorious archive, slightly different part of it, with Alan Bissett.
That's right.
Talking about the early incarnation of when Billy met Alasdair. Time flies, we'll get to Alan again. But what is the focus of Gray Day this time around? The sixth?
Yeah.
How is that
sixth
possible?
I guess the first one was online because we were in the midst of lockdown, so technically the fifth one in real life. But yeah, this one is all about Lanark at 45 years on. So yeah, talking about the enduring influence of that. Really seminal work of fiction by Gray. So yeah, that's what we're talking about and celebrating for this year's Gray Day. So of course we're going to hear a little bit of the text itself, the original text, through the new narrations that Alan Cumming has done for the new audiobook, which we're excited about. And myself and Canagate have kind of worked to commission 5 new animators who are going to be responding visually to those sections. And then alongside that we've got Josie Long, who's going to be hosting.
Yeah.
We've got Rachelle Atalla, who's been responding to Lanark. She'll tell you a wee bit more about that. And this is due to the creative collaboration that we've been working on with Strathclyde University, the creative writing department. And then we've obviously got Alan Bissett as well, who'll be performing a different section of his When Billy Met Alasdair, which was a commission that we worked on last year with the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. The full version of it's going to be performed at the Citizens as part of the festival in March. So
yeah, I think it's just wonderful the way in which, you know, Alan was inspired by this photograph of Billy Connolly and Alasdair at the launch. So it ties in so beautifully, doesn't it, with this 45th anniversary at the launch. And it has just taken on such a lease of life. I read it in paper form before we chatted about Gray Day this time last year. Obviously, I saw it coming to life on stage at the actual event at Oran. It was incredible. Then the full thing, brilliantly successful Fringe run, it's touring, it's coming to Stirling, it's coming to the McRobert, you mentioned the sits. Isn't it wonderful how something, it's just such a brilliant illustration, Sorcha, of the way in which you can have a jumping off point for something and the art then goes and finds its own way.
I think so, and I mean maybe, you know, Josie and Rachelle can talk a little bit more about that in terms of writing something to then the act of performing it, getting feedback, probably tweaking and refining it as a result of working with a live audience and getting that kind of interaction from it. So, but yeah, that's really kind of everything about what we're doing here at the archive. It's of course looking after a collection and it's caring for kind of Gray's legacy, but it's also thinking about how can we create that same opportunity for others to explore and sort of reimagine the work in that way too. So that's kind of at the heart of everything that Alasdair was doing. It's responding to works that existed already, so that keeps it relevant and constantly fresh and being able to be kind of critically and creatively engaged with, which is really important.
Totally, the possibilities are endless. So yes, it's brilliant news, Josie. You are hosting this year. You're an adopted Scot, you're an adopted Glaswegian, in fact. I'm going to tell you that. Okay. When did you first encounter Alasdair Gray's wild and wonderful imagination?
Well, I discovered Alasdair Gray really about 15 years ago. I used to go out with a Glaswegian man, and he said to me, have you read Lanark? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then he was like, oh, what? And then he I think I actually took his copy of Lanark. I don't think he gave it to me. I think I stole it. But it's that really beautiful edition with the red and the pink. And I read that and I loved it, and I was just so thrilled by it, how big it was and how exciting and unusual it was, and all of the different parts of it. And so I really got into that, and then through that just got more and more into discovering kind of the breadth of Alasdair Gray's work. And it was very fun to sort of discover him first as a novelist and then be like, oh my god, he was this incredible painter, this incredible muralist. And so there's a book which is right up there, the Life in Pictures book, which I got as soon as it came out. I was so excited by that, and to find out more and more about all the different dimensions of him has been a real thrill. And obviously it is pathetic how much I love Glasgow as a city, but I do. I love it. And so his kind of identity throughout that city, the way he creatively imagines it, reimagines it, his kind of imprint on the city is so there for me. And I really love that. And I was saying the other day about every time I'm in the Hillhead subway, I'm looking at his paintings and being like, I'm going to get a tattoo of one of these. But I can't decide which one I'm going to get. And then I'm like, I could just get one of all of it. It's you can't do that. That would be insane. But just a whole back piece of all of those. So I have to thank my ex-boyfriend for that, because I hadn't read any of his, and then I read a lot of his short stories, and I just really, really love him as a writer and as a painter as well.
I love this. I'm here for Josie Long, the walking mural.
Every now and again I think I'll get the one that says lovely mums, and then I think there's more to me than that.
Where do you begin and where do you end? And Rachelle, I'm a huge fan of your writing, as you know, and you're going to tell us about this new commission which you're reading from at Grady. But before we get to that, tell us about your relationship with him. At what point did your world collide with Alasdair Gray?
My world. Well, I think Lanark was the kind of first book that I was introduced to, and I probably read it when I was about 18 and probably also didn't fully understand it at the time. I was kind of blown away by the concept, and even just the creative things that he was doing. The fact that it's book 3 that's first, there was, I think for me as a young person who wasn't even sure I was going to be a writer at the age of 18, there was just this really engaging idea of the city that I was also living in when I was 18. I had a flat in St George's Cross.
Perfect.
Oh my god,
and so I would walk most of the time around the city, so I was always crossing the motorway as well. And so it felt like a real affinity to be kind of reading about this space that was different but also the same. So I think that was my introduction then. Very similar to Josie, I read a lot of short stories. I love the sense of the realism versus the surrealist nature of his writing. That's always appealed to me. I'm also a big fan of Kafka, and I think Alasdair took a lot of inspiration in terms of atmosphere from Kafka. So he was always a writer I admired. And actually, I think I mentioned to Sorcha, I performed, before I was really a published writer, I performed at a literary evening, and it was one of Alasdair's last events that he attended.
Wow.
And I was reading a Hamish Henderson poem, probably terribly, and I think there was even singing in the poem, and I was on stage trying to do this. But we were so, as kind of younger aspiring writers, we were so kind of in awe that he was in the audience, sitting watching us all. So you just feel for the energy.
That presence.
Absolutely, the presence and just the inspiration he brought to so many of us. So it's just lovely now to be invited to come and do a kind of creative response commission to his work.
I'm always thrilled to read about the creative responses. You know how excited I was when you were announced as being involved this year, but I'm also really curious as to where you begin and where you end, because there's so much to delve into. So what aspects of Lanark or Glasgow or Alasdair's work led the way for you? How did you dig in?
How did I do it? That's a great question. I think it started with a huge amount of excitement, and then immediately I was quite daunted by the prospect as well, because I immediately, and obviously because Lanark's were celebrating its anniversary of 45 years, so I knew that the inspiration for my piece, my creative response, had to be heavily embedded within Lanark. And I very quickly wanted to do something that felt very surrealist and kind of show Glasgow, as an imagined city or reimagined city. And then I came to the archive and spent a few days here, and every day I was like, oh my god, I don't want to leave, this place is absolutely incredible, but there's also so much. And it was like, where do you focus, like where do you put your energy? And so I think I definitely came away, I remember just like sitting on the sofa in the day being like, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what I'm going to do, what if nothing comes, like what if, it felt like there's too many options. And actually what I did is I started just a document of like what were the things that were that I was being drawn to in the archive, and that could be something really small, whether it was a little detail in one of his murals or a painting, or even just some of the annotations he put in other people's books of what he must have been thinking in terms of reading their work. That was all really inspiring. A life in pictures, again, like that was I loved reading all the detail next to the pictures. So it was a very kind of organic process, I would say, and I kept coming back to this idea of sanitation. And really wanting to
obviously
who doesn't want to
be the number one
sanitation?
That was what I was thinking.
But I couldn't get past, and even I would say to Sorcha, there's something about sanitation. I also just think it's a topic that he would really approve of. Like I think he would really love to explore that in his own writing. And thinking about Lanark and thinking about the archive, I kept coming back to what is an infrastructure that I can mirror to this motorway that kind of ripped through the heart of his community that he was constantly trying to think about, and even the Kicadden's scene painting. It doesn't have any cars in it, and I always thought, is that him just trying to like repaint the Kirkcaddens that he knows? And so through that I thought, well, about like underground sewage systems, they're very antiquated, they haven't really been upgraded, how can I kind of mirror that? And I wanted this sense of, I think again in Alasdair's work there's a lot of, we kind of persevere, and we're always kind of told, you know, from people in power and positions of power, that they take things from us and they tell us just to persevere, and actually this is the new norm now and you will accept it. And so I kind of tried to bring a modern take to that, which is in the forms of toilets disappearing. So I wrote a short story, which I think was originally called Comfort Break, but I now think we're possibly changing the title.
Oh, really interesting. I love this. I love the evolution. So it may change?
Yeah, to waste management. Now that the story's written, and like actually that might be a more fitting title.
I love that.
For the piece.
Yeah.
But it follows a young, recently graduated art school student called Ruth, who really struggles to get a job, and she ends up working as a full-time kind of night shift sanitation worker. So her job is to kind of clean up Glasgow in the middle of the night while they're trying to do kind of sewage upgrades. And then the council run out of money, and I'll leave it. I'll leave it there.
What a cliffhanger! Do you know, it's lovely, even as you're talking us through that a little bit of the sort of idea behind this story, comfort break stroke waste management stroke who knows. I'm seeing it. It's very visual, and you know, we spoke, obviously Josie, hugely loved and award-winning comedian, but also we spoke about your short stories. You know, when that book came out as well, and what strikes me about that is, again, there's this real visual sense to it. And if Alasdair taught us anything, not that he was wanting to teach anyone directly, it was the possibilities are endless in short stories.
I feel that way, but I also feel that way. Like I was what that sort of sparked in me is with my I'm doing a stand-up show that I've just sort of finished touring, and I'm about to take it to a couple of festivals, and one of the things I wanted to do with it, the last one I did, was to bring more art into it. I painted loads of big canvases with like UV paint, so that at the end of the show it would like reveal this like hidden visual dimension. And I used loads of like drawings and paintings and stuff in the show. And I think for me, like, it's part of completely owning something to like decide. And I think this is sort of an Alasdair Gray touch, is like to decide that you can be quite a complete author of the entire thing. So like I think about him sort of illustrating his own books, illustrating within the books. One of the things I've really loved with Lanark as I was reading it is like the delight you have when he's kind of made these tiny embellished details to it, when he's really, really put in all of that focus to kind of present you something like complete that he's at it. And like when I've been writing stand-up shows, I think even from the first one I wrote, I was really aware of this idea of you don't have to just go on stage and do what you think other people want you to do. You can decorate the whole room if you want. You choose the music, you choose the backdrop, you choose everything. And the more you pour into that, the better it becomes. And I think like, that's something I think of when I think of his work especially, is it's like, he's not just going, well, I've written a story. He's going, okay, I've written a story. Now I'm going to decide how I'm going to present the numbers on each page. Now I'm going to decide how I'm going to typeset it. Now I'm going to decide if I want to include footnotes and if those footnotes are going to be real or made up. I'm, like, the level of world building is so energetic and exciting to me. And I feel like that's something for my work that I want to do. Like, what was so thrilling for me doing my stand-up show recently was I would be doing the chat, great, and I would do sort of presenting stuff, and at the very end we'd switch on the UV and everyone would sort of, not everyone, but good, cool people would be like, like people would gasp because they weren't expecting it. And I think if you add these other dimensions into your work, because most things are kind of one dimension really, it's so thrilling for people and it's such a joy, and it's like a reminder that you can. Like I think as well, like with another thing about the archive especially, is you get this real sense of Alasdair Gray's creative spirit and the relentlessness of it and the kind of energetic nature of it. And I feel like as creators, like creators, as writers, as artists, it's such an important reminder to think like, what can, you know, it's boundless what you can try and do, and like the ways you can go and stuff. And I think that's what I take from it. And like with stories, I mean, I wish my stories were as like full as his, but definitely that idea of bringing in as many elements as you can.
I mean, I think that's it. Everything is art, and everything can be art, you know, and the city is art, and you know, bringing that into Oran is the most perfect example of that, right? Because we are surrounded by Alasdair Gray's work, and on top of that, it's wonderful that there are these animations, you know, there are these artist visual commissions as well, because again, it just utterly brings it to life in a slightly different way. So tell us, so these are going to be in tune with some of Alan Cumming's audiobook readings.
Yeah, which is great. So we've got like 5 clips that kind of run throughout the book, which I guess it's so hard, isn't it? Because when you're reading words, of course, and that's the great thing about Lanark, it is so visual, isn't it? You're kind of conjuring up, and there's these really kind of key passages, I guess, if you think about the Thon McAlpine scene, which was written just outside the window here at the clay pits, and that kind of idea of the sort of reimagining of Glasgow. You've got these really important sections that have almost taken on a life of their own too.
That's so true.
So I know that's difficult for an emerging animator, right, to give them that pressure on responding to it. And a couple of them, I mean, one in particular is from Glasgow, so it's definitely leaning into and we have in fact given her that section of, and she kind of the reimagining section, because of her being able to kind of lean into that sort of local kind of perspective on it. But there, you know, the real international range of young creatives who are responding to it, and I think that's what I find really exciting too. You know, you can live or be from the city, you can call the city home temporarily or permanently, but lots of people talk about the influence beyond Glasgow too of Lanark, and I think that's what Alasdair's do. Of course, he's given permission to every Glaswegian in a way, and everyone who calls this place home to think about the creative potential of the city. But it's you can map that onto wherever you are, right? To look at what's around you, how can that be used as a creative source of inspiration, and as Josie was saying, not to kind of limit that. I think you know, often that's something around how maybe creativity is sort of mapped, taught, supported, that often it is boundaried around medium and type, but so many creatives are beyond that, are writing, but also writing text, or working in TV or publish, you know, it's a range of different outlets that they're writing and creating for. So I think that's really important to remember, that Alasdair wasn't a boundaried creative. He was all expansive, all encompassing, and also really rooted into, you know, it was universal in a way, but it was quite local too, and it was drawing on people and places around him that meant something to him, which I think we all do. That's what makes our own perspective quite unique and distinct.
And it gives us a sense of place as well. It's just
and the value of ordinary experience. You know, it's nothing more powerful than seeing a version of yourself reflected back in a story or in an artwork, and I think that's what he's given to. And the more that we can all have a differing range of those perspectives, I think the better.
And I think that's what you feel when you visit the archive as well. Completely. It's this living, breathing thing that is giving you space as a creative to make your own way, you know, looking at his work for inspiration, but there's no set rule. You're there to just kind of absorb and take inspiration from the way he himself worked. He was such a collaborator. He was always promoting other people's work, and you know, I suppose I'm not I'm a writer, and you could argue that there is only one story ever told. This a sense of like a stranger comes to town. So we're all taking inspiration and stories from elsewhere and places and trying to put our own spin on it. And I think he really celebrated that. And so for me, coming in to do a commission, it was, although it was daunting, it was very freeing. It was very liberating because there were no rules. It's like, what are you being drawn to? What inspires you?
It's kind of debunking that myth a little bit, right, around the conditions of what it takes to be creative in a way.
Yes.
Like, you don't need a studio, you can do it in your bedroom, use what you have around you. And also, as you said, is there an original thought or an idea? And in a way, we're all kind of filtering what's around us, but what makes it unique is our own kind of filter in the way that we're weaving all of this and putting it back out there. And I think whatever stage you're at, but particularly for some of the younger school groups we've had in here, when they see Alasdair Gray tracing or taking an idea from someone else's story and remaking it, they're like, oh, you can see the penny dropping and the sense of, oh, okay, I can maybe do that. I think often it's that pressure or conditions in which maybe people think they need to be creative or what it should be doing. So I think if anything else, it gives you, maybe liberates more people to think actually you can live a creative life in whatever way that's useful to.
And I think the other thing to add is that there are examples of seeing Alasdair's work in earlier form and how that's evolved. And I think as an emerging writer or artist in one of his murals, to know that nothing is perfect at the start is a huge kind of step of understanding your own practice, that actually it takes time, it takes thought, it takes movement and distance and understanding to eventually have the result that kind of publicly people are seeing.
I also found when I was in there, I went away and I was really like, oh my God, I only have a certain amount of life left. And I have to make more art with it. I felt so inspired by the amount that he was making and the sort of the energy you can just feel and the devotion that he had to his different practices. And I walked away from it thinking I need to be creative
really
every day.
having been in the archive.
I really felt like God, I really must be creating more because and bad luck to my haters, what a terrible result for them. But I really did feel God, life is so short and it's so wonderful to create, and it's such a brilliant use of time on earth. And I was just buzzing with that feeling of oh God, I have to write more and I have to make more because there's only so much time that you have.
There's so much life in the archive. I mean, I'm obsessed every time I go in. I just even touching the desk, I don't know, that connection, that sort of tangibility. But it's so much about the life leaping off the page or leaping out of the murals, and again just bringing it back to this idea of a sort of collectivism of us being together in this room for something like Grady. Having been to a few of them, I was lucky enough to host it last year. It's such a celebration, Sorcha, isn't it? It's such a sense of the possibilities within all of us, but also celebrating this brilliant man and the way that his work, his art, his ideas are still firing off in every direction you can think of.
Absolutely, and that's being all-encompassing from the different kind of art forms that are celebrated as part of that. I mean, if we think back to the early couple of Grey Days, it was way more focused on Alasdair's work and celebrating it. But and he always liked that, of course, to the focus to be on the work, not necessarily on all the other bits around that. But the fact that now that we can use and sort of trace a path of future commissions and creative responses to it, I think is really healthy to kind of have that balance between honouring the work in a way, but also this creative and critical exploration of it too, because that keeps it constantly relevant as well, doesn't it? And the more you can do that, and because Alasdair is so interdisciplinary, the more that we can really fully look to expand that across all sorts of different art forms. And of course last year, because we did the Comedy Festival collaboration, and I know quite a few of the comedians were even talking about that, saying, well, as comedy isn't even considered an art form. If you go to Creative Scotland, it's not an art form that should be supported.
For shame.
And it should.
For shame.
It is. It's that's what we're into, is supporting the widest diversification of what art and creativity is, and not bounding that even to visual or literary. It's in all its forms, really. So I think that's very important too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does shine a light on different aspects. So when Ashley Storey and Christopher MacArthur Boyd, spoke last year about the incredible kind of comic potential, if you like, of Alasdair's work. And again, these things aren't always necessarily looked at, or obviously the Poor Things adaptation took it into film in a different way. But, the storytelling aspect and the comedy elements, they're all there, Josie,
Yeah, really. I'd just like to shout out Christopher MacArthur Boyd as an incredible sculptor. Last night me and him and another comedian friend of ours were playing this game. We have to sculpt plasticine very quickly. And he had to sculpt a thief. And he made this insane model of nothing, and then just kept going, And we were like, what is that? And he was like, look. And I was like, this is nothing. And then afterwards he's like, it's obviously a thief. And we were like, oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, real potential in many creative arts. But yeah, I think it is right with comedy. He was a very funny man. He had a great sense of humour. Like Lanark is full of these like incredible bold jokes. Like even the way that he responds to it, the way he sets it out has such a confidence to it, which is so funny and so swaggery. Like there's so much. And like that was, reading the fourth book with all of the different like back and forth. That is such a funny joke to play over and over again in loads of different ways. And I think, definitely. And I feel like too, at the risk again of sounding like a real like suck up, but like humour is such a massive part of the culture of Glasgow, it really is. Like people here are funny and fun and have a laugh with each other and enjoy that. Like I come from a place which is really doesn't have that in the culture, and like you feel it. You feel people like that is so embedded, and like it's represented in the work too, because like that's the culture of the city, and like so I think that's really important.
It is, because we can maybe take that for granted a little bit. It's you've experienced the opposite. We kind of maybe don't know any different, so you can literally
I can tell you, listen, that's why people, they move south and then they always come back, so they're like, the patter, terrible, unbearable.
Connecting though, isn't it, humour? Being able to, it doesn't matter, age, stage. I think it's such a leveler in a way of basic kind of communicating and getting on with people. It's about those kind of relationships, and humour is often that.
Human connection.
Human connection is a way to do that.
You touched on TV there, and Rachelle, although we're concentrating on your Grady commission, you put me in mind of a wonderful short film that is currently screening. It was BBC Three and BBC iPlayer, Pineapple.
That's right.
Now the wonderful thing is this starts and it pans out and it's a Glasgow landscape. Two things happen almost within the first opening seconds. This gorgeous Glasgow landscape, right, here's we're back in the city, and then immediately, complete absurd, dating with pineapples. So it goes from landscape to a pineapple, okay? And I just thought, actually, that is not so far away from other imaginations.
Sure. I think he's maybe always lingering there in my mind then.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, I wasn't even aware of that. But that does also feel, I think that feeds into Glasgow and our humour. And that's interesting, because I wouldn't have thought of that as a connecting factor. But the surreal also living amongst the kind of the realist tone of something is always an appeal, absolutely.
And is it always evolving? Obviously you're going to be reading this, you're still working on the title, okay, for what might be the title, Comfort Break or Waste Management or whatever else it might be. I mean, do those things change a bit when you perform? How does that work, that sort of interaction with the public? Because certainly with Alan Bissett's, that was a different thing. It was a work in progress, but it really evolved, and it was with that interaction with the audience and in a kind of public space and speaking it.
It'll be interesting to see how it feels on the night, and depending on what part of the story I perform. I think I'm definitely going to lean into the more surrealist part of the story, where Glasgow is not quite what we assumed it was. But I'm quite excited. I mean, I love performing works. I'm quite excited, and there's an energy. I mean, I'm not a comedian, but I feel like there is an energy with having an audience in front of you that is different to just sitting at home trying to kind of construct the story, usually on your own.
Sure.
But that's again what's been such a joy of this commission, is that it has been fully collaborative, and getting to show my work to Sorcha and Rog Glass as well at the University of Strathclyde, and getting their input and thoughts. And every time we've kind of worked on a draft, there's always something that I maybe haven't even realised was taking inspiration from Alasdair, but yeah, either Sorcha or Rod just gone, this really reminded me of and I'm like, that's amazing.
It's haunting the work.
I think the beauty of something like a creative commission or creative writing is that you are leaving space for the reader or the participant to kind of make their own, to bring their own ideas to the piece. You know, it's a partnership between the kind of creator and the audience. And ideally, if a piece works well, then there's space for them to bring something of themselves to that as well.
You spoke about sitting down and when you're writing a show, Josie. Did you write first or did you perform first?
I tend to sort of write on stage. I have ideas of what I want the show to be, and I have ideas of what I want to write about, and I do come up with bits sort of as they are, but for me a lot of the writing is on stage because you get that kind of crystallization of the pressure of the crowd. And for me, I don't know, there's just something living in improvising around your ideas that feels like the right medium for writing performance.
Sure.
But it's really interesting, like I then will record it, go back, transcribe it, tinker with it, rewrite things, and there are always bits that I do write out completely as text. Like if I'm writing a narrative show, there'll be like more serious bits, and you only let yourself do about 20 seconds of serious stuff, but those 20 seconds every word is like perfectly placed. And it's always a mixture for me between the two mediums, writing. And then what was interesting was then having the drawings and having that artistic stuff inform it, which is something I really wanted to do in this past show. I wanted to kind of, because my first show I ever did, I did a lot of drawings. No, it was like 20 years ago, I guess, but like I did a lot of drawings. And so with writing this show, it's like I want to go back to that past iteration of myself and like see what kind of creative ground comes from there. So like, it's more of an interplay for me. It's interesting. There are like two types of comedians. There are comedians that sit and write a script on the computer, and there are comedians that do stuff on stage, and I feel like you can tell the two.
Interesting.
And like people like me, I love the messiness of on stage, and I love the fact that with stand-up you can improv every time, and I try and leave spaces in every show that there are improvisational bubbles and stuff. And then you have other people where it's like not a breath deviated, and it's so interesting. Basically it's like most comedians are either ADHD or autistic, and you can really see which one that is. And some of us are probably both, and then we get to do both. But like, it's, I think it comes from like two types of brain that see it, and like.
But I think that's fascinating because I can relate that to writing a novel, because there's some people that are plotting and planning every detail.
Yes, truly.
And I work the opposite because I'm so worried that if I stick to the plot or the detail, I'm going to miss all the
take the life out of it.
The little angles and tangents that it could possibly take that bring life.
That's so interesting, and it makes so much sense to me. Because like I know those types of writers, and like also if a writer who's more excited by it, or more kind of, I can't think of the word, like I'm just rubbing my fingers. Do you know what I mean? Like
automatic writing, which is kind of emerges from
more bodily present or something, or more kind of hot heat lamp. If a writer who's more of an impressionistic writer maybe tries to do that structure thing, it's like a jacket that doesn't fit, you know?
Totally.
And then people who are like very structured, they can't just be like, I can't just vibe this. But it's so funny that there are like different types that come in for the same mediums, you know?
That's wonderful though, isn't it? You just have to trust whatever way it is, if it works for you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
and sometimes you challenge yourself a bit and be like, no, I will do this. And it's like, no.
I wonder what that process is like then, if you are the one who is reading someone else's work, the audiobook. And I remember when Nicola Sturgeon and Val McDermott were doing a lovely book event. It was in Edinburgh, and I think it was in the Christmas of 2024. And Alan Cumming was one of their guests, and this is when he's like, I should say, I can't. And he sort of let the cat out of the bag that he was going to be, or was in the process of, I can't remember which, narrating Lanark. And of course, there was this total intake of breath from the audience, from from everyone on stage, because it was like, and then of course, I mean, it'll be fascinating to hear it, won't it?
There's just some voices that work so well, don't they? He, as you can imagine from the way that he kind of performs, and all the drama, and it just brings it to life, I think, in a kind of completely different way. They have also managed to track down a few of the original tapes. We've got a few of them here that we lent to Canongate too, that they digitised. There's a couple that are missing that we can never track down, so they have got little bits of original Alasdair Gray footage from those cassettes that he did in the 90s as well, that are weaving into it too. So yeah, I'm excited to see it all. Obviously it's just been the kind of boundaried clips from Alan that I've heard so far, so I can't wait to hear it in full.
So we'll get a good sense of that ready. Yes. We'll get to hear. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the story, but we've got a cliffhanger here with the title. So if you're coming along to find out what the title is,
wait and see.
And Josie Long bringing the ceremony together. It's going to be a party as always, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Are you still on tour? Can we see you after that? Let's have a final roundup of any other plugs you might like to do.
If there are any listeners in Melbourne, Australia,
there are.
Oh well, hello. Good day. I am doing the first 2 weeks of the Melbourne Comedy Festival with my show Knives the Time of Monsters, and I'm really excited to be doing that. Yeah, I love it. And also I'm currently filming it, so in a year it will be. It's going to be like a very odd to camera feature film. It's not going to be an on stage special, so that's something exciting. Other than that, I don't have much else going on, but it's all good. No, please come and see me. If you ever see me in Glasgow, please come and see me on stage. If you see me in Glasgow walking around, please ignore me. I'm too awkward. But yeah, that's very good.
I'm not doing very much. I'm just going on tour to Australia and making a film.
That's true, but
I'll just go back to my bed now. Thank you very much. What stage are you at with novels? Because it's this wonderful thing where it's like, here's another incredible book, here's another incredible book
so
deal.
Cool.
So where are you at?
Where I'm kind of melting in the corner of my office. I am working on edits on another novels which should be out next year.
Okay,
but I also don't have a title for that.
I've got a couple of ideas.
It seems to be the writing is easy, and then giving something a title to me feels like the hardest part. So I'm working on that, and I'm also doing quite a lot of screen projects at various different stages. So busy, but I think it's good to be busy.
Yeah, totally. And we can see Pineapple. It's
and
still
thank you for the plug already.
Yeah, no.
Please
watch. Thank you for the Pineapple Prohibition dating. And I think we've touched on almost everything that's happening at Grey Day, Sorcha, but there are always lots of events around it. Is there anything else we should mention?
Myself and Laura MacDonald, who's our collaborative doctoral awards student, who is researching agnosomes. We're doing a talk at Kelvin Grove in the afternoon of Grey Day, where there's a little exhibition on in Kelvin Grove at the moment of Alasdair's book jackets, including some of the covers that he did for agnosomes. So we're talking a little bit about their kind of comparative archives and working relationship, because we've been working with her family. We opened the Agnosomes archive this year, and there's quite a lot around her centenary plans that we're doing this year with her family and with her publishers, Berlin. So yeah, there's a whole kind of programme of activity around that. We were also doing a clay workshop the day before called Play with Grey with Clay. Many more things.
Beautiful.
I mean, honestly, it had to happen.
That's happening the day before.
I hope Christopher MacArthur Boyd
will
be involved with that.
We'll keep your spot.
Now we heard about his sculpting tendencies. So there's lots of other aspects.
Around Grey Day, there's lots of other things kind of going on. And because it's about Lanark, we've got a couple of years ago we made a digital interactive kind of website, which is a bit of a deep dive into the novel. So if folks physically can't make Grey Day, there's lots of ways in which you can listen back to some past footage on Lanark from different people reading different sections of the book. Of course, the audiobook's going to be launched on Grey Day too, so you can listen to that in full. And there's the website and various other digital projects that you can explore if you can't physically come, but please do come. Last few tickets are available.
Get on it, exactly. What a party it is. Okay, well, thank you so much for catching up on a Monday morning, and I love that we're on the Alasdair Gray landscape. We're not just in the archive just now. I will have to go through and do my ritualistic admiring of the desk before I go back into the outside world. Thank you so much again, Sorcha, Rachelle, Josie. See you at Grey Day.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
The lovely Josie Long, Rachelle, Atalla and Alasdair Gray Archive custodian Sorcha Dallas. Come and see them all, and Alan Bissett and Alan Cumming in video form on February 25th at Grey Day at Glasgow's Oran. That is in partnership with Canongate. If you fancy hearing more about Alasdair Gray, you can listen back to last year's special with Sorcha and Alan Bissett. I hosted Gray Day last year, Oran. We had a blast. And you can also find episodes of A Kick Up the Arts with former Creative Commission writers Denise Mina, Chitra Ramaswamy and Michael Peterson, if you're so inclined. Also, just a reminder that I'm going to be in Aberdeen in February as well, in conversation with Shetland and Vera creator Anne Cleves. That's at Granite Noir. What fun we're going to have up there, February the 21st. And then I'm in conversation with Barbara Dixon in Fife the following weekend, February the 28th. She's also going to play live. That is at LGBTQ plus Hub The Hive in Kirkcaldy. Thank you as always for listening, for sharing, commenting, getting in touch. I love hearing from you and for coming to the live events. Hope to see you somewhere soon. And see you down the front at Oran Moor. Bye for now.